It was 4:30 a.m. when Ada's alarm went off. She groggily turned it off, knowing that it wasn't her morning routine that awaited her, it was her husband, Emeka. He was already sitting up in bed, his eyes fixed on her with an unsettling intensity. "You know what time it is," he said with a smirk, reaching for her. Ada sighed deeply. She couldn't remember the last time she slept through the night without dreading these early hours. Emeka's strange habit had started innocently enough during their honeymoon. Back then, it seemed cute-like, a quirky way of bonding. But over the years, it had turned into something darker, something consuming. At first, Ada thought it was just a phase. Emeka had always been affectionate, and she loved that about him. But now, his sucking of booby ritual was no longer about intimacy or love. It was about control. He demanded it every 2 hours, without fail, morning, afternoon, and night. Even when he was at work, he would call her to his office, lock the door, and expect her to comply. Ada winced as he latched on, the soreness in her boobie making her eyes water. She tried to suppress the tears, but one slipped out, trailing down her cheek. "Why are you crying again?" Emeka asked, his tone sharp. "Emeka, I am in pain," Ada said softly. "I can't keep doing this. My boobie are sore and I feel like I am losing myself. Can't we talk about this? Maybe there's another way." "There is no other way," Emeka interrupted, his voice rising. "This is what makes our bond special. You should be grateful I care so much about you. Do you know how many women would kill to have a husband who loves them like I do?" Ada fell silent, her heart sinking. He always said the same thing, that she was lucky to have him, that no other man would love her the way he did. Over time, she had started to believe it, even though a part of her still longed for freedom. After he was done, Emeka got up and started getting ready for work. Ada sat on the edge of the bed, clutching her chest and trying to compose herself. She knew what would happen next. At 10 a.m., her phone buzzed. It was Emeka. "Come to my office," his text read. Ada sighed, her hands trembling as she typed out a response. "Emeka, I am in so much pain today. Can we skip this time just once, please?" Within seconds, his reply came. "If you don't come, you'll regret it. Don't make me angry, Ada." She stared at the screen, her stomach twisting in knots. She had tried to stand up to him before, but it never ended well. Emeka had a way of making her feel small, powerless. Reluctantly, Ada grabbed her bag and left the house. The drive to his office felt like an eternity, her mind racing with thoughts of escape. But where would she go? Who would believe her story? When she arrived at the office, Emeka was waiting for her, his expression stern. He closed the door behind her and locked it, as he always did. "Good, you are here," he said, motioning for her to sit. "Emeka, please," Ada began, her voice trembling. "This isn't normal. We need help. Maybe we can see a therapist or—" "Stop it," he snapped, his tone icy. "You are starting to sound ungrateful again. Do you think anyone else will ever put up with you? Do you think anyone else will love you like I do?" Ada swallowed hard, her words dying in her throat. She wanted to scream, to fight back, but she felt trapped. Emeka had isolated her from her family and friends over the years, convincing her that they didn't understand her like he did. By the time she left his office, Ada felt like a shell of herself. The soreness in her boobie was unbearable, but the pain in her heart was even worse. That night, as Emeka reached for her again, Ada couldn't hold back her tears. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered. "What did you say?" Emeka asked, his voice low and dangerous. "I said I can't do this anymore," Ada repeated, her voice stronger this time. "You are hurting me, Emeka. This isn't love. This is control." Emeka's eyes darkened, and for a moment, Ada thought he might hit her, but instead, he leaned in close and whispered, "You think you can leave me? Go ahead and try. You'll see what happens." As he turned away and went to sleep, Ada lay awake, her mind racing. She didn't know how, but she knew she had to find a way out. This was no longer about her physical pain, it was about survival. Ada woke up to the sound of Emeka's footsteps. It was 4:30 a.m., and like clockwork, he was already sitting on the edge of the bed waiting. His intense gaze felt like a chain wrapped tightly around her body. She bit her lip, suppressing the urge to scream. "Let's not make this morning difficult," he said, his voice calm yet suffocating. For a moment, Ada thought about refusing, about running out of the room and locking herself in the bathroom. But fear held her still. Instead, she silently obeyed, letting him suck her boobie as her tears soaked the pillow. Later that day, while Emeka was at work, Ada sat in the living room staring at her phone. She had spent the last week secretly researching therapists and support groups for women in abusive relationships. But her greatest challenge wasn't finding help, it was convincing herself to take the first step. Her phone buzzed. It was Emeka again. "Be at my office in 20 minutes, the message read. Ada's hands trembled, her body ached, her chest burned, and her mind screamed for relief. She thought about ignoring him, but she knew how dangerous he could be. This time, she decided she wouldn't go empty-handed. She grabbed a small voice recorder she had bought earlier in the week and slipped it into her bag. If no one believed her story, she would gather proof. When Ada arrived at Emeka's office, he was waiting for her as usual. The blinds were drawn, and the door was locked behind her. "You are late," he said, frowning. "I am sorry," she muttered, trying to keep her voice steady. As he reached for her, she felt the recorder in her bag, its weight reminding her of her plan. She pressed the record button discreetly and let him suck her boobie, enduring the unbearable pain and humiliation once more. "You are lucky to have me, you know," Emeka said as he finished. "No one else would ever put up with you." She said nothing, but inside, her anger simmered. That night, as Emeka slept soundly beside her, Ada listened to the recording on her phone. Hearing his voice, so manipulative and cruel, brought tears to her eyes. But it also gave her strength. She decided to call her older sister, Chioma. They hadn't spoken in years ever since Emeka had convinced Ada to cut ties with her family. But now, she needed help. When Chioma picked up, her voice was filled with surprise and concern. "Ada? Is that you?" "Yes, it's me," Ada said, her voice shaking. "Chioma, I need your help. I am in trouble." "What's going on? Are you okay?" Ada hesitated for a moment, then poured out her story, tears streaming down her face as she spoke. Chioma listened silently, her voice trembling with anger when she finally responded. "Pack your things. You are leaving tonight," Chioma said firmly. "But Emeka—" "I don't care about Emeka," Chioma snapped. "You are coming to stay with me. We'll figure everything else out later." By the time Emeka woke up the next morning, Ada was gone. She had packed a small bag and left the house while he slept, her heart pounding with fear and adrenaline. When he realized she was missing, he called her repeatedly, but she didn't answer. Instead, she sat in Chioma's living room, surrounded by her sister and a few close friends, finally feeling a glimmer of safety. The following days were a whirlwind. With Chioma's help, Ada filed a police report and shared the recording she had made. She also started attending therapy, where she began to unpack the years of abuse she had endured. But Emeka wasn't ready to let her go. He showed up at Chioma's house one evening, pounding on the door and shouting for Ada to come outside. "You think you can leave me?" he screamed. "You are nothing without me. Open this door now." Inside, Ada froze, her body trembling with fear. But Chioma stood firm, refusing to let him in. "This is your last warning," Chioma said through the door. "Leave now, or I am calling the police." Realizing he had lost control, Emeka finally stormed off. Months passed, and Ada slowly began to rebuild her life. She started a new job, reconnected with her family, and even joined a support group for survivors of abuse. Though the scars of her experience lingered, she felt stronger with each passing day. For the first time in years, she was free to live, to heal, and to dream of a brighter future. And as she sat in her therapist's office one afternoon, sharing her story, she realized just how far she had come. She had escaped the darkness, and now she was determined to never look back.